What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the garage, and we're here for another Thursday Night Live show. You know how it goes. Couple things going on if you haven't told. I'm old. I'm wearing glasses again. It's been over 10 years, probably closer to 15 years since I've had glasses, but I've learned that I can no longer see, and I lost all my hair. You can see my scar. My brain implant scars. I told the girl, just take a little bit off the top. She took about 4 inches. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it. What's going on, everybody? Man, and I'm super excited. Glad to see Legend. Hate to hear it, man. Implant's doing great. Shaky Dave. I love that. I would have been Shaky Kyle back in the day before the implant, but I'm pretty solid, and I've got the thing dialed down so I can talk better. I'm finding that nice little balance. What up, TJ? Oh man, safe flight, brother. Holler at me whenever you're back to Houston. You reached out to me, and then I never heard anything back from you. Dude, I got a pretty solid hairline, and the surgery didn't really, I've got 2 implants, I got 2 probes. The left one over here is not too bad, but this one is the bad one, which I have a hard time seeing. But if I kind of do like that, you can see where they poked my brain. Hey everybody, if it's your first time joining, thank you for joining. Obviously, some of you are probably going to trickle in from the HP Tuners post. We've got so much to talk about. What up, Demon? Long time no see. Good to see you again, brother. We got a lot to talk about for this year because now that I've got my new contract with HP Tuners for 2026, one of the things that I stipulated was we're doing giveaways. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're giving away not 1, not 2, but 6 MPVI4s this year. And so about every other month, we're going to give away an MPVI4 to a lucky viewer of the live show. But at some point in time, and I'm not going to tell you when, I'm giving away a core ECU also. So you're not going to want to miss the live show this year for your opportunity to win a core ECU. So stick around. And, shout out as always to HP Tuners. Basically, what I told them, hey man, there's Jorge. What's going on? Long time, man. What I said was for this year, I want to be able to give back to you guys. I said that's the main goal, and so I need to change the layout here. The live show is officially brought to you by HP Tuners for 2026. Stick around. We're not giving away the MPVI4 tonight. Probably not the next live show, but the show after that. So, where's the calendar at? We're going to do it. How do I make the calendar? We're shooting for the 19th. We'll say the 19th. But Legend, I will talk about that in a second because that's a specific topic that I've talked about recently. I'm going to go ahead and nope. Hold on. No, I'm not doing a $150. As much as I love you guys, I can't afford to do a $150 gift card every week. I broke it. Calm down. We're going to start. I'm going to do a 50. We'll do a 50. Cancel this one and let me change it. $50 to Summit. And let's start. Okay. And free memberships. If you're in here in the live chat and you won a membership, make sure to send TJ a big thank you for that. And let's see. Let's go ahead and let's give out 5 more. Bingo. How's this? We're just rocking it. Okay. Greg, what city are you in that has a summit? We're always giving something away. If we're not giving away knowledge, we gave away one of the new shirts last week. We're going to be giving away an InPVI4 this month. We got 6 of them, so every other month. But I'm going to keep you guys on your toes because I want to keep you engaged and I want you to be on the live show. So if you don't show up to the live show and you don't stay to the end, you can't win. Okay, where are we at? I saw something. Anyone tune in LS with the TH350 with no VSS or park neutral switch? So literally have a guy that I'm working on a tune for back in my hometown, Oklahoma, that we won't get into the details, but there's some things that you really need a vehicle speed for. Some of the tables, if you dig into the editor, you will find that some of the tables are speed-based, specifically when we're talking about coming off throttle and going back to idle. And so things like throttle follower and all that jazz, if it's using it, or the IEC, it has to know whenever you're making that transition so it can catch it and keep it from stalling. And so it is important to have VSS. I'd say more so than park neutral. Park neutral is a safety thing, but I'll be honest with you, I can't remember if I've ever tried to do... Well, Mike, wiring it to the ABS sensor would be the first idea, but what if you're doing it on an old car that doesn't have ABS sensors? Where are you getting it? Where are you getting your speed from? And so you got to have something, right? You got to have something. Okay, let's see here. Bop, bop, bop. Let me get caught up. TJ, as always, thank you, brother. I hope you have a safe trip, and I'll talk to you whenever you get back to Houston. Sparks. Okay, Nevada. Nice. Man, there's so many people in here, I don't even know where to start. Listen, if you're here, thank you for being here. Make sure and tune in on Thursdays. And let's go. I know I missed some other ones. And just ask your questions. If you're new here, you just ask your questions. I'll try and get to them. I can't get to everyone. Should start coyote tuning. Yeah, I know. I'm going to work on getting some stuff in, or somebody in, that we can talk more about Ford tuning. I've got it lined up. I don't know when it's going to be. And I don't know if any of you guys follow Brad DeBerti with his Raptor R that he's building right now. But the guy that tuned that truck, I'm going to have him on the show here soon, so we can talk about some Ford stuff. Ford's just not really my wheelhouse. A lot of things do carry over whenever we're talking about Ford. There is some very specific things, whenever we talk about the multiple VE tables, because of the dual overhead cam, it gets a little messy. But we'll dive into that and talk to him more about that kind of stuff and kind of get some tips and tricks from those. So, I have something I'm going to be coming out with Legend very soon, in the next week or two, that is specifically for taking a Hall sensor, which is what the most of the aftermarket wheel speed sensors or drive shaft sensors, are, and converts it over to a VR type sensor that the ECUs, this factory ECUs, use. It's going to be a really cheap device. As I said, the guy that I'm working with, doing the tune for right now, he was having this issue. Everything I found out there was hundreds or $150, expensive. And I'm like, this is a $15, $20 problem. And so I'm going to bring something to market that's going to be like a $20 solution, so you can grab something from any of these race shops that have some kind of sensor setup, and you can convert it over to the type of signal that the ECU is looking for and will work. But I'm going to make sure that it works reliably, and that we have, good info. And so if you're one of the people that are looking for something like this, make sure that you're on our Discord. Let me see if I can grab a link. It wasn't working very well the other night, because people who are on the Discord are going to get a first shot at it. I'll probably send some of these out for free to test out for people that actually have something to test these things out on. So make sure you're a part of the Discord. Let me generate a link here. And here is the link to the Discord. So before I get into the next thing, and I'll Demons, I'll talk about the difference here in a second. Let me say one thing first. Tom Bailey, I kind of uncorked on him last week. I will give him props this week. He did not finish sick week, but it was not from him just quitting this time. The guy was trying. He actually put together a really quick pass in testing and just was not able to get it together during the week and kept on going. But I was very happy to see that he did not give up this time. So I'm cutting him a little slack this time. It's drag and drive, man. I understand that you want to be the first guy that gets a 5-second average throughout the week and stuff like that. But just because A, you're not going to win, or B, you're not going to hit your 5-second average means that you drop out of a drag and drive event, much less your own drag and drive event. Like, that is not the spirit of the event. You stay in it, you finish, you do what you can. And so, props to him for actually staying in it this time. Okay. That being said, how hard is it to tune first gen 5.3 versus an L83? So, first gen, you're talking about third gen, which would be the first generation 5.3 versus an L83. It is so simple in comparison. An L83, you're getting into a torque-based system. That's when things get a lot more complicated, and you have to understand. Whenever we're talking about a torque-based system, the airflow model is so critical. You cannot get away with a MAF-only tune. It 100% has to have the VE table, or the virtual VE table, and the MAF dialed in, or else the torque calculation gets skewed and it does not work. So, other than that, a lot of the other stuff is kind of the same, and it depends on the level of mods. You know, whenever you get into doing cams and long tubes and stuff like that, the stock torque table will actually work for mods, because what we're doing whenever we modify those things is we're adding to the ability of the engine to breathe. We're expanding its lungs. You know, we're increasing the efficiency of its breathing, and to the point where if it's done right, you can exceed 100% efficiency at certain points. Like, you can actually get things dialed in to the point where it will breathe in more than the displacement of the actual motor. But whenever we go into forced induction and we start getting into essentially artificial compression and stuff like that, that's when the torque model starts to have issues, and you have to kind of look out beyond the torque model. So we've got this span here where the torque model looks really good, and we're operating in this naturally aspirated, and if we make adjustments, we're still going to be kind of in the same torque model. It's whenever we get outside of the range of that torque model that we really have issues and have to start making adjustments. So Demon, the difference between the MPV i3 and 4, really the big thing is the processor on it's way better. And so not only is that the processor better, it's got a lot more memory, it can handle multiple parameters a lot better. If you have been logging newer cars, you might see sometimes that parameters disappear if you get a lot of parameters on the channel list. That's one of the things that the 4 is not going to have issues with. You're going to be able to log a lot more parameters, and if you ever use standalone logging, it is significantly better on standalone logging. So on the 3 and before, if you use standalone logging and you got more than about 20 to 25 parameters, the unit started having issues, because whenever we're logging to the laptop, it's acting as a pass-through. And where we run into restrictions on that is on data speeds passing through to your laptop, and then the laptop becomes the issue if it can keep up and stuff like that. Whenever we're doing standalone logging, the MPVI is doing all the heavy lifting. Having the new processor and the extra memory allows it to have the strength to log more parameters at higher rates of speed. So that's the big takeaway there. I'll be honest with you, if you are on a 3, probably not a whole lot of reason to upgrade unless you do a lot of standalone logging, or you like to log as many channels as humanly possible. And I'll be honest with you, whenever we're talking about logging a bunch of channels, it can be helpful, but it can also be a detriment at times, because it's too easy to overwhelm us when we're looking at all this data, we can miss some of the simple issues that we're looking for in a log whenever we have 100 parameters that we're trying to keep track of at a high resolution of data capture, if that makes sense. Well, Legend, if you see Tom Bailey, tell him no hard feelings, and I wish him luck in the next event that he's going to. As I said, and we'll just bury the hatchet. We'll say that. So let's see. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything here. Lots spanning. Make sure you get in on the raffle. Exclamation point raffle. Get you tickets. If you're a member, you get bonus tickets. Hey, so you don't want to miss that. Okay, I see we're answering questions. Okay, that's where we're at. So, going to ask this for people that are trying to get into tuning. What steps? The steps that you tune in order to start up the final drive? Okay, so I've kind of changed position on this over the last couple years. And originally, I would tell people just go out, adjust the MAF and get the thing running, and then kind of branch out. And doing that would require you to, whenever you do the VE, to go back and do the MAF again. Now, I'm more of the mindset nowadays that if you can go straight to VE, if it will allow you to fail the MAF and start up and run, start on the VE table. It's the longest portion of tuning. It takes the most time to get dialed in. But once it's dialed in and good, we push it to the background and kind of forget it, move over to the MAF, and the MAF falls in line real quick. We don't have to go back and redo the MAF. And so if I were to say today, the order of operations, we're starting with airflow. We're starting with VE, going to MAF. Then we're going to move on to Spark. I pay attention to Spark while I'm doing the airflow stuff to make sure everything looks good. If we're getting funky knock whenever we're in the tuning phase, if we're lean, that's probably what's going on. But if we're, on the richer side and we're still getting knock, we might have some false knock. We need to kind of dig deeper into the false knock, figure out what's going on there, try to sort that stuff out. But at the end of the day, VE, mass airflow, Spark, transmission at the end. And honestly, what I always tell people is tune it, get it dialed in, drive it for a couple months, then go back and kind of check everything over again. Because whenever we're talking about weather changes and stuff like that, so much stuff changes that can affect the tune that if some of the stuff in the tune are not quite right, we need to find a nice happy middle ground. We've got temperature compensation, for IAT, ECT, all that stuff, barometric pressure shifts and things like that. If we tune it spot on at, say, 80 degrees outside, whenever it's 40, it's probably not going to run that well. Closed loop will pick up a lot of that slack, but we may have to put it somewhere in between 80 and 40 degrees, say 60, and let closed loop compensate both to the 80 and both down to 40, if that makes sense. Okay? What's the deal with tuning big cams on otherwise stock LQ4? Big thing on that is you got to look at the efficiency down low. That's where it really matters. That's where people struggle. It's with idle and looking at idle. And there's some tricks and kind of things that we have to do. So cranking is the first thing I always do. If we put a big cam in, we got to lower cranking volumetric efficiency down because we've lost it. I normally start at 80% if it's 100% table. And if it's one of them that has an actual cranking VE table, I just multiply by 0.8 to take that 20% out. That'll get it in the ballpark with a fairly healthy cam to get the thing up and running. And then so you're going to shift your VE table. So if you're here, let me set up the whiteboard. I'll just kind of show you real quick exactly what I'm talking about because it'll make more sense if I draw it out. Just give me a blank canvas and let's go whiteboard. So if we've got a VE table and we're looking at it in 3D, we're kind of expecting something that looks like our torque curve. And this is looking from the high end down. So this is going to be at the end of your VE curve. On a stock setup, it's going to look kind of like this. This is your peak torque area here. That's always going to be your max airflow. Now, whenever you add a cam, you're going to get a curve that looks more like this. And that's where we're picking up power from the cam. If the cam makes power from, 4,000 to 7,000 RPMs, we're going to pick up airflow up in that range versus where we were at, but we lose efficiency down below a certain point because the cam's not efficient at lower RPMs, if that makes sense. So it's kind of the quick and dirty without getting too far into what's going on. EOIT tuning for fuel smell. That Roland, that's a little bit in depth for the live show. Maybe we can talk about that here soon. Is there any advantage for Gen 3 and 4 LS platforms? Tom, that's a great question. And how you doing, brother? Gen 3 is easier. Honestly, Gen 3 is where I steer most people to. I don't know that there's an advantage going to the Gen 4 platform at all if you're on an LS. I really can't think of anything. Can I tune in real time without open loop? Well, okay, that's the question's a little bit wonky there, 3Mate. So whenever we tune with a wideband, we generally tune in open loop. Because closed loop, we're allowing the narrow bands to skew our fuel data. And we can go in and create math where we look at our wideband and add in our short terms, or if we're just logging short terms and we have long terms turned off. The problem is, like on third gens, really on third gens, and somewhat on fourth gens, the closed loop control is not that good. It's really not that capable of getting us targeted in and using it as a reliable adjustment off of base fueling. It's good for idle, it's good for steady state cruising, and that's about it. Outside of those two situations, it's just going to give you bad data and cause you to chase your tail. And that's why I say it's critical that we put a wideband on, we put it in open loop, and get rid of any fuel trims and adjust the tables without that stuff messing with us. Okay, yeah, Deem's got a good point. The most important thing before tuning is to check car parts doing well, like fuel pump injectors, exactly. And he's 1,000% correct. I was actually thinking about this today, just a random thought that popped in my head. You cannot fix a electrical or mechanical issue on a car through a tune. And I run into this so often. I would say probably 75 to 80% of the tunes that I do, we end up running into a situation where it's like, why is this car doing this? And then we have to start the troubleshooting process and figure out what's wrong with the car. There's something that's causing issues. And it can be the most minor things, like a nicked spark plug wire that only loses spark on the plug at certain RPM ranges, and it'll show up kind of as a funky misfire that only happens between 4,000 and 4,200 RPMs. It is very critical that the car be 1,000% mechanically correct and ready for tuning. Because if not, what you're going to end up doing it, because you can band-aid a lot of issues through the tune, but whenever you band-aid issues through the tune, you're not getting the most power and efficiency out of the motor while you're doing the tune. And that's the whole purpose of tuning it, right? Okay. Does the math have an impact on transmission tuning? Yes. And I'll tell you why, Greg. There's a couple different ways. For one, if you disable the math, fail the math on a lot of the ECUs, it will automatically put the transmission in a safety mode, which commands full pressure all the time. And there's actually a patch in the OS tab for the ones that do that, where you can put it in SD mode and not have it go into full bore pressure all the time. Now, the other side of it is that even though third gens and fourth gens are technically not a torque based ECU, they still have torque tables in there I'd have to double check on the third, but in the fourth gen for sure there is torque tables in there. Those torque tables are what the transmission uses to know how much pressure it should be applying, and that comes from your airflow model, and that's how the math can impact. Gen 3 is idling high at startup for 30 seconds. What kind of tune to stop that? There's a flare control, 3 made amps. I can't remember where it's at on Gen 3. Look in Spark. I think it's under Spark on Gen 3. It'll be called flare control. And essentially what happens is, and it also depends on if you've got an IAC or drive-by-wire, which gets a little bit funky. If it's IAC, the IAC may be too far open, so you may have to adjust the park position of the IAC to try and get it down. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Sexy errors, Andrew. The benefit that you can pull timing wherever you shift with Gen 4. Well, and that's part of that torque system, Owen, that you're talking about. That is happening whether you, if you go into torque management on the transmission side and zero out those torque management tables, it will not pull that timing. That's whenever you start burning up clutch packs on those. ICT, send an email about remote tuning my V6 Mustang. Never heard back. No, you didn't, liar. Nice try, though. What up, All America? Thank you. I want to send you a link to my truck video that helped me build, bring fruition. Send it over to info, go over garage. Love to check it out, man. Okay, Bill. Great question. LS1 idles and drives fine, but when I let off the gas pedal, the car cruises at 22. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about. ICT car guy, I'm going to ban you. Bill, it goes back to what we're talking about. Depends on if it's cable or drive-by-wire throttle body. If it's cable, the IAC is probably sticking open too far. And it could be throttle followers, things like that. Start stepping the air levels down. Most likely what's happened, I'm guessing, Bill, if I had to guess off the top of my head, you have a cam in there. And so the previous airflow values of your base idle airflow are probably too high for that cam. And so it's actually allowing too much air in at idle. Hey, Cole, what's going on, brother? Do you have a preferred Spark Pro brand for Camden A? I mean, AC Delco, NGK. Those are the ones I go with. If you're talking about racing plugs, you're going into forced induction and stuff like that, Brisk is what I'd go through if you're making big power, 800 plus. As my view says, pops and bangs usually just make it a little rich, but it'll ruin your cats. If you don't have cats though, turn off DFCO and kill your idle advance off throttle, and you'll start getting it. Can you get flames with HP tuners on 350? Is the 350Z supported by HP tuner? I'm not even sure. Yeah, I can get flames on anything with HP tuners. Yeah, same tab as low and high octane. Is there any issue with increasing the injector timing boundary in normal numbers quite a bit? Well, so you got to, Cole, whenever you're talking about timing boundaries and stuff like that, you got to take into account the angle of the crank and what the valves are doing. Obviously, you don't want to be necessarily spraying at certain points of time. Just be aware of kind of where your valve train's at and keep it in there. Do you plan on making an Academy of Tuning? Nah, man, I'm here to give this stuff away. You know, I'm just here to help guys. Like, it's as much as I would love to do an Academy of Tuning, you know, stuff like that. I don't really have the time to invest and do that stuff. And there's good resources out there that we've partnered up with. You've got HP Academy, you've got Elite Tune School. You know, there's some stuff looking good. What's the video schedule going to be looking like? Great question, Legend. So I've got to figure out what's going on. I probably sound fine right now, but whenever I'm trying to record in here and I'm doing some of my overview videos of walking through tuning steps, we've been doing fundamentals lately, my microphones have been messing up. And so whenever I go back to edit the video, it's just unusable. And so I got to get that sorted out. But yeah, pops and bangs will toast your wideband. What would cause a super lean condition with just cold air intake and a full exhaust? And man, there's so many things that's like a loaded question. One of the things, like, are we just talking like what are we doing? Where is it always that, or is it in certain situations? You can in fact tune the 350Z. Okay, learned something new today, and I love those cars. I need to pick one of those up. That'd be a fun project car. Yeah, man. Just whenever you're off throttle, make that thing dump fuel. It'll shoot flames. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big flame guy. All these cars that you see out there shooting flames, that's just a sign that it's not properly tuned. I don't care if it's a Lamborghini. I don't care if it's a Dodge Viper. I don't care if it's a Honda Civic. If a car is properly tuned, it does not have pops and bangs. It does not shoot flames. That stuff just does not happen. And so even the cars that do it from the factory, they've been tweaked to do that for the factory to get that Racer Boy aesthetic to make, people feel awesome. And so I don't have anything against it. If that's what you're into, hey man, more power to you, do it. But I'm here to get the tune right. And so that is not a part of getting the tune right. Good Black Car. Just started tuning my C7 with a 5-inch cold air intake. Heck yeah. Listen, guys. We have got 3 minutes left on the raffle. There's a ton of you. 30 of you are not in the raffle. Exclamation point raffle. Get in right now before this ends. Get your free $50 Summit gift card. Got to be present to win. Okay. ICT car guy, seriously quit trolling, bro. I'll punch you in the face through the camera. How do you feel the direction of hobbyist tuning? Do you see more people getting into it less? What would be a reason to not start tuning? Flat Cat, that's a great question. So I was at PRI this year, got to sit in the Elite Tune booth, got to meet a lot of cool people. Thanks to everybody that showed up, shook my hand, talked to me a little bit about tuning. I think that tuning from both a hobbyist standpoint and from a legitimate professional standpoint, and that's the key takeaway, legitimate, because I will tell you out there right now, 75 to 80% of the people that call themselves tuners out there right now are not tuners. And they are actually putting dangerous tunes out on the road. And I have a list of people that you would think, because they have their name attached to tuning, that they are good tuners, and they are really crap tuners. And I'm not going to actually dox any of these people because that's not how I roll in the tuning world. But what I'm seeing is there's more of a interest in actually getting proper information, and proper information is getting out there because you've got guys like Matt Sanford, you've got guys like Joe Simpson, you've got a bunch of guys that are very sharp. Silver Surfer's another one. These guys are very sharp in the tuning world, very knowledgeable. Matt Happel, aka Sloppy. These guys are getting the information out and making it more accessible. So what we've dealt with up until about 5 years ago was there was more false or bad information on tuning than there was good information. And I don't blame necessarily the guys that were putting that information out. A lot of it was we were still figuring things out. We were still trying to figure out what works, what wasn't working. And tuning, for the most part, back then was very much skinning cats. There was more than one way to do it. Some ways were Band-Aids because we didn't have access to proper tables and stuff like that. Those got fleshed out, got fixed. Now we can do things properly. We've got kind of a set process that we do in order to do a proper tune. And so that information is getting out. Also on top of it, 10 years ago, the guys that did know what they were doing would not share any information. They treated it like it was gold. And I kind of understand that, but at the same time, I don't operate that way. I'm all about sharing information. How do you feel about Amazon widebands? Whenever you talk about Amazon widebands, I'm assuming you're talking about Glow Shift. I don't have any issues with them, honestly. I've ran a Glow Shift. It seemed to be all right, but... And yes, we will get Dan Kunkel, who is Silver Surfer. We'll get him back on. How do you know when you're getting close to gone too far with Gen 4 minimum idle airflow? So on Gen 4 minimum idle airflow, just look at what, if you get your airflow dialed in, Rusty, look at what your airflow is at idle and just keep it below that. Now, you've gone too far, you'll know because your idle will hang. Okay. Tom Davis, newest project, 66 Corvette Coupe. And that's all I'm going to say about it. I got a lot going on. Bad Fast Busa, do you utilize Silver Surfers, VVE, or Map Tunes? I don't. And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with them. I just have my way of doing it, and I've been doing it for so long. It's just hard for me to kind of pivot away from doing things that way. You know, you learn a certain way, and it's not to say that I don't like to evolve and learn new things when tuning. It's just that those steps don't necessarily add to what I'm doing as a tuner because, not to sound kind of like I don't need them. It's just that whenever I look at things like the VE table and stuff like that, I can predict how the VE table is going to react before I hit the calculate button just because I've hit that damn button so many times, right? Yeah, Cole, if you want to dive deeper into that, reach out to me, man, because that's a really in-depth topic. Interesting. David Hammond says, I realize it's not popular, but only a few have discussed it on YouTube. What are your thoughts on tuning a 411 PCM to run a carved LS versus the MSD route? I think it's genius, David. Like, why would you spend the money for an MSD whenever you can do everything that the MSD does with the 411, along with the carburetor? I have absolutely no issues with that. I don't see, and all you're doing is you're just not plugging in the injectors. The ECU doesn't know that the injectors aren't there. What's up, everybody? We will do the drawing here in a second. Looking to get in MPVI 4.1 to know your input on the AEM wideband versus the NTK if it's worth the extra cash. No. So unless you're running exotic fuels or a diesel, don't bother with the NTK. You don't need it. The range that you're in, a standard 4.9 sensor, which is like what the AEM uses, and you know, Ballingers, you can run either one. So if you want to flirt around with the possibility of going over into NTK, you know, run the Ballinger because you can run the standard Bosch 4.9 sensor like the AEMs run and the Innovates and the entire world. NTK, the accuracy, some people say, oh, it's more accurate, it's faster response. It's not enough to spend the extra money. You can do everything that you need to do. There are multi-thousand horsepower cars out there running LSU 4.9 sensors, okay? And Flycat, that's a great question. This is going to be the last question. Then we're going to do the drawing and wrap it up. Thoughts on the MPVI once losing support next year? Is there any real reason to still use an MPVI 1? So, I think it's a great idea that they're ending support. And if you did not see all the posts and stuff like that, it's at the end of this year, the MPVI 1 will no longer be supported. Doesn't mean the MPVI 1 will not work. Doesn't mean that you're just going to be stuck. Now, you've got two options. You can keep on using it. You're not going to get software updates, VCM suite updates. Basically, December 31st of next year, whatever version is out, that will be the version of the software that you want to stay on forever. Okay? Now, $250, send the thing in. They transfer your licenses over to one of the new units, one of the 4s, and just go with it. I see so many people complain about this, and it cracks me up. In fact, I posted on Facebook on a post by HB Tuners earlier today where everybody's just sitting there complaining about this, and I'm like, you guys are sitting here on your iPhones complaining about a 20-year-old device being phased out. Like, if you have a problem with it, throw your iPhone away, get a Nokia brick phone that you had 20 years ago, and then jump back on here and post some crap about how you're tired. This is how technology works. In my eyes, the MPVI, the original unit, should have been phased out at least 5 years ago. So, okay. Yeah, it's $250 if you want to upgrade, and they will transfer all of your stuff over. Listen, I kind of miss the Nokia brick also. BlackBerry if necessary. Okay, we're going to pick our winner. Stand by. And the winner is Famo 666 6. Where you at? Are you still in here, fam? Let's hear it, brother. Hey, man, I stayed off the soapbox tonight, ICT. Hey, great crowd tonight, by the way. Thanks, everybody. I want you guys to show up next Thursday and the Thursday after. Let's keep on building this community. And I tell you what. I'll make this problem right now. If we go 2 weeks with over 100 live viewers, we will extend the live show back to an hour. Okay? How's that sound? You heard it right here. Gives you a reason to show up. We will go back to an hour if we can get over 100 live viewers. It's been a long time since we had 73. So, okay, Famo6, what I need you to do is I need you to email me or use the contact form over on goatropegarage.com. Email at info@goatropegarage. Your name, username, all that jazz, and I will send you a $50 Summit gift card. Congratulations. Jeffrey Evans from Evans Performance Tuning. I'll have to see. I like what Evans is doing, so I don't see any issue with that. Well, we're going to have a lot of guests on this year, so we're going to get spooled up. I mean, it's just the fourth show of the year, the fifth show of the year. So we're going to have like 40 shows this year. Do I work with the 1320 video guys? No, I know a couple of them, cool guys, but you know, I could try to get some on. In fact, I was going to have. God, I'm drawing a blank. It's been so long since I talked to him. Not Kyle, not Fred. It's neither here nor there. Okay, so we're wrapped up. Thank you for everybody that showed up. Make sure you guys stick around for the upcoming live shows. You don't want to miss out on the giveaways that we're doing this year. And yeah. Dude, okay, listen. All you guys that are putting questions in right now, jump over to the Discord. There's a section specifically for live show questions. I didn't get to it tonight. We will start with that next week. And so if you've got questions that you want to be aired out on next Thursday's show, post them in the Discord or show up next Thursday, obviously. Okay? Listen, you guys know the drill. Thanks for stopping by the garage. Remember, ABT, always be tuning. Oh, how do